Joined by our International Affairs editor, Douglas Herbert. Doug, it seems only 2 days after it started this new humanitarian operation that this is a picture of chaos. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, for the United Nations and for the many international aid groups that had been working on the ground, no longer able to, in Gaza. This was a disaster waiting to happen. This was a disaster preordained in a sense. Everyone had sort of seen this coming. And what we're seeing in this chaos, and you could see the images there, Israeli troops basically keeping to the sidelines, but at one point firing warning shots in the air as the chaos engulfed one of these aid centers, and a private American security contractors trying to keep order at the site itself. They said that this was something that we literally told you so, that this was going to happen. What they're saying about this is you have this so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. This is a U.S.-backed group whose goal, according to its critics, and among them the very people I'm talking about, the United Nations officials, the aid groups, the UN aid groups, and other international groups that have been on the ground for years, if not decades, in Gaza, trying to get aid really distributed. They say that this flies in the face of all humanitarian principles. They say what this amounts to, even though obviously the Israeli government, the U.S. government, who's helping this plan as well, what this really amounts to is a weaponization of food, a weaponization of aid. And how so? Because what they say right now as this plan works is the Israelis want to have control of it, right? This aid is the bottom line in this new plan is that the Israelis have contended, and what I really mean is Benjamin Netanyahu and his far-right government have said the reason that they had imposed this 11-week blockade on all food, water, medicine entering Gaza until now is that they said, well, it was being diverted, basically stolen by Hamas and not getting to the people it should be getting to. So they said the only way to ensure that the aid doesn't get into Hamas's hands, something obviously Hamas has denied, that it's diverting aid away from the Gazan population, Palestinian population. The only way to ensure that is for us to have full control, that is military control, hence the Israeli troops surrounding this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the GHF Center, and also these Americans, so the U.S. and Israelis marching in lockstep to sort of fence this aid literally and distribute it on their terms. Like I said, UN and aid groups who know how to distribute aid, who have been doing it for years, and by many reckonings, doing it relatively well under extremely trying circumstances. They say, you want to know how not to distribute aid? Look at this. This is how not to. Remember, there's 2 million plus people in Gaza right now. There are 2 aid sites, only one of which we've seen the pictures from so far. They have been overwhelmed. And they're forcing people essentially to uproot themselves and displace to this one site in the south of Gaza. What the critics say is this is nothing more than a thinly veiled plan to displace Palestinians to an aid zone, the first step towards eventually making them leave Gaza, deporting them essentially, even though that's not the official policy right now of the Israeli government.
Well, beyond the aid situation, Israel's continued military offensive is coming under increasing condemnation from the international community.
Just about almost everywhere you turn outside of Benjamin Netanyahu and his government, you are coming in for some sort of criticism, from the mild to the very harsh. Let's start with the harsh. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, he wrote on the Haaretz, a left-leaning Israeli newspaper website, basically that what Israel is doing right now. What I mean by what Israel is doing is the military assault, the intensifying military assault on Gaza right now, on the enclave, with the explicit objective of seizing control of all of it, and with the less explicit but still objective of getting the Palestinians ultimately to leave, even if that's not written in stone right now. This is, as Ehud Olmert says it, with the collateral damage of Palestinians, thousands of them being killed. This is committing war crimes. He says that he has qualified what Benjamin Netanyahu and his government are as a gang, a criminal gang, essentially, and that they are waging a war, as he sees it, right now without any clear purpose and without any clear goals. Sure, Benjamin Netanyahu repeatedly says his goal is to eliminate Hamas, to wipe it out, make it not viable anymore, and to free the hostages. But he says there's no explicit plan and there's no way forward. They've been going at this war relentlessly. It's the 600th day right now of this war since it started October 7th, and there is no sign that they have an explicit way of putting an end to it. They say this is why Ehud Olmert and others including Joseph Borrell, former top EU foreign policy chief. He also saying that this is amounting to ethnic cleansing and genocide. Not a term, you can lightly use, but this is a term we're hearing coming from more and more people, and they are using it. They're appropriating the UN definition of an effort to wipe out an entire ethnic nationality, a race, a religion, and basically to exterminate it in a sense, fully or partially. This is something, a word that you never would have heard before, coming out of the mouths of more and more people, and not just, you'd say, so-called radical leftists or progressives, but people who used to be, remember Ehud Olmert, who hasn't used the term, but some of these people are mainstream politicians who see what's going on, are saying they're calling it out for what it is.
All right, Doug Herbert, thank you very much for that analysis.